Hey guys. So, um, today I wanted to talk about my history with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons as well as my current experiences with the system. I kind of touched on it a little bit yesterday. Just as a heads up, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat. I don't usually go live on my own, so I'm going to try to be able to engage with both. And I'm just going to go through everything that I have, um, whether I have viewers or not, because I know that the live stream will eventually just be posted anyway. So, my history with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is that I played a few times in the 90s as a kid. My best friend's brother ran a couple sessions for us. I didn't really understand the mechanics at the time, so I didn't really fully appreciate the game. I didn't really touch AD&D again or anything old school, like older than third edition, until several years ago. Somebody invited me to play in an old school's Essentials campaign. I did struggle a little bit with that game, and the reason is that I expected things to be pretty similar to the way that they are in fifth edition, which there's very marked differences between old school D&D and current editions. But I'll talk about those later with my actual current experiences, and I think it'll make a lot of sense uh, why I actually really appreciate what they were doing in the older editions. So, most recently at uh, Page One, that's the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and then again at Page Two, I played several sessions of AD&D. And at first, my thought was, well, I know how to play 5e, so how different could it be? You know, let's see what the old edition is like now that I have a better understanding of role playing games in general and how they work, how they play. So I actually enjoyed AD&D so much that I picked up this book, and I know some people may not. Uh, okay, weird. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure if I should start the stream over. I think I'm just going to start the stream over. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just record, and then if I need to, I can always just post the video. But hmm. All right. Anyway, so my experience, I read most of this player's handbook. The first character that I made, it actually took me like 4 hours. Just trying to sort through all of the ability scores and what they meant and where to fill in the things on the sheet. Uh, but I had a really good time with that and learning the intricacies of the system and like what the minimum and maximum ability scores were for each of the races and for each of the classes. Uh, I'm using that character for a solo adventure, and being a solo adventure, I decided to play a multi-class character, which then I also had to figure that out too. So it's a fighter cleric, a dwarven fighter cleric, and um, yeah, it was a lot to figure out at first. I think I can make a character much quicker now. Let's see. I've looked into the DMG. I have one on order. So I'm looking forward to picking that up and having a copy that I can read. So, some of the things that I had to get used to, and honestly, at first I was kind of worried um, trying to learn AD&D on my own. You know, when I played at the conventions, I had experienced dungeon masters who I just had to roll a die when they told me to, and whatever the results were, they could tell me, you know, whether it was a success or not. What I wanted to do when picking up this player's handbook was read about the old rules, and with the solo adventure, I knew I was going to have to be able to adjudicate everything myself. You know, one of the things that I was going to have to figure out was Thaco, and I have to say that I don't find Thaco as complex as most people make it out to be. So essentially, what I've come to realize is that Thaco is a measure of your combat prowess. The lower your Thaco score, the better. Most characters are going to start at level 1 with a Thaco of 20, meaning that you need 20 to hit armor class 0. And as you get higher levels, especially my character is a fighter, so every time he levels up, his to hit armor class 0 becomes 1 better. But next is like, what does that mean and how does it interact with a descending armor class? And actually, I found that to be pretty simple too. I got it after only a couple combats, actually. Essentially, you just take the attacker's Thaco, let's say it's 18, and subtract the target's armor class, adding the value if it's a negative AC. And that's the result that you need to hit. So let's say the armor class is 8 and your Thaco is 18. You subtract the 8 from 18 and you need a 10 to hit. So a result of 10. The reason I say result versus a die roll of 10 is because you could have some bonuses. So if you had plus 2 to hit, you would only need an 8 on the die in order to hit that armor class 8. Either way, I've been using Thaco and enjoying it because it is different than what I'm used to using in modern games, um, and it's been fun to see what it was like before. And I know you know, a lot of common thought is that ascending armor class is better, and I would tend to agree. But to kind of experience AD&D as it was, I just keep using Thaco rather than you know, converting to the ascending armor class. Uh, Another thing that I thought was strange was the ability scores. Um, I thought that the simplicity of 5es and modern games where like a 12 is plus 1, a 14 is plus 2, a 16 is plus 3. I thought that going to a system where the ability scores were all different as far as what they provided would be difficult to work with. So this is a website that I use since I currently don't have the Dungeon Master's Guide, and also if I need to look something up quick and I don't have my player's handbook with me, I figure for the stream it would be a good way to share the information. So I'm just going to click through here, and this is the strength chart. A lot of ads, but you see that like you don't get a bonus from your strength, a damage bonus, until you have a 16. So having a high strength, while it is good for sure, you would want an 18 strength, and especially as a fighter, which I can talk a little bit about in a minute. There's less. I feel like there's less of a need to get into the minutia of, oh, a 13 is, still only +1. So if I get an extra +1 to a 14, then it's +2. Or like, I need to have a 12 strength for a +1, or, there's a really big middle area where you just don't seem to get bonuses to combat from strength, let's say, as an example. Um, but you also don't get penalized at at an 8 or a 9 either, where in modern games an 8 or a 9 would be a -1. You just don't have any bonus or penalty. So it provides like 8 to 15 is pretty standard. And then the main thing that you're getting from your strength is like the weight that you can lift, your maximum press, your chance of opening doors, and then bending bars and lifting gates. So clearly, if you can have a higher stat, you would want a higher stat. But I don't feel like, from a min max perspective, it's as necessary, which feels weird to say, but because you're not like getting really high bonuses, um, it's less important, I think. Now, if you're a fighter and or a warrior and you have an 18 strength, you do get to roll on this exceptional strength, and you could end up with some pretty hefty bonuses. So having an 18 in a strength as a warrior is really good. Um, but if you weren't a warrior and you had anything 16 to 18, you're pretty much almost in the same boat anyway. You do get that extra +1 to hit at 17 and an extra damage at 18, but it's not like the obscene bonuses that you would see in the newer editions where like 18 is going to be +4 to hit and +4 to damage. So I think it's more middling, and honestly, I think it feels better overall because it's flatter. I mean, as a player, obviously, you usually want everything that you can get. So having +4 and +4, +4 to hit, +4 to damage in, like, say, 5th edition now feels really good at an 18. But I think within the AD&D system and the stats the way that they are, I think that's actually really good. And another example that I wanted to look at was like Constitution, because again, in like 5th edition, your Constitution would bonus you uh, um, every 2. So at 12, you're getting +1 hit point. At 14, you're getting +2 hit points. At 16, you're getting +3 hit points. But when we look at the Constitution here in AD&D, you don't get a bonus hit point until a 15. And even then, it's only 1. 16 +2. And if you see here from 17 down, it's like +2, and then in parentheses +3, +2, +4 at 18. Those parentheses are only for warriors. So you don't benefit from having, at least not in a hit point category, you don't gain more hit points for having a constitution higher than 16 unless you're a warrior. So you don't need to have an obscene constitution. It does help you with some other things like system shock so that you don't automatically die from like being polymorphed in things. And you have a better chance of surviving being resurrected. The poison save bonus, you don't even get that until 19, which is pretty hard to get, especially if you're rolling 3d6 down the sheet. I did use a different method for the stats that I generated. I used option 6 in the book, which is one that I think I used when I was playing with my friend's brother, but it it seemed to give a bit of flexibility in um, the ability scores that you had, and also I think for a solo adventure, having better stats was more important. And I know that I just was talking about how um, the stats aren't as important overall. Like you can work, and I think that's my main point is that you can work with lower stats. It seems in AD&D than you could in fifth edition because unless you have amazing stats, you're pretty much equal, like with no real bonus or penalty. And then it's like how that attribute impacts like an ability check where you have to roll under your ability score on a d20, or um, the other things that it impacts, like system shock, resurrection, survival, um, the non-combat things anyway, is really where your attributes seem to impact more, rather than um, everything being combat focused, where that seems to be the focus of the more modern systems. So method 6 was each ability score starts at an 8. You roll 7d6, and then you apply those wherever you want, but you can't apply a die to an ability score if it would push it over 18. So you have to be kind of strategic about where you put it, but it does allow you to get an 18 in a stat. And for a solo adventure, I felt like that was really important because I don't have um, for most of it, I didn't have NPCs or henchmen or followers or any of that, and you don't have a party. You're on your own. So I felt like I needed I needed a better stat generation for a solo adventure than just rolling 3d6 down the sheet. So um, I'll look at one more ability score, dexterity. So it's another combat one typically, but looking at this, you also don't get an AC adjustment until 16 dexterity, and even then it's uh, actually I'm wrong on that, 15 for the defense adjustment, and then it's -1 to armor class. Um, that does steadily improve 16, 17, 18 to a -4. Um, and your to hit bonus is only +1, +2 at 17. It stays +2 at 18 even. So even with an 18 dexterity, in fifth edition you would be +4 to hit, +4 to armor class, +4 to initiative. The bonuses just they're not as high, and you're not penalized in the middle either. So you're not seeing an armor class penalty until dexterity 6, and you're not seeing like initiative and attack penalties until a 5. So I think it's harder to get the bonuses, but also less likely to end up with penalties. So that's pretty much what I've seen out of the ability scores. Let's see. Checking my notes. XP tables. So I thought that having different XP for the classes would um, be bad. I thought it would be weird that like clerics level faster than fighters, and in my case, being a multi-class character, that a having the cleric levels go up faster than my fighter levels would be weird. But my experience with it was once I reached cleric 2 at 1500 experience. If you look at this table here, the next fighter level was 2000. So that meant that I only had another 500 experience to get, and I was leveling again in essence, because then fighter was going to 2. Uh, there's a caveat, but I'll explain that in a minute. Once I reached fighter 2, the next level to look forward to was cleric 3. Cleric 3 was at 3000 experience, so only another 1000 experience, and I was gaining another level. When you do multi-class, there's a caveat to it, which is you have to share your XP between the two classes, or three classes if you have them. I'm only going to speak to two because that's what I'm doing. So you can either split the XP between the two classes, or what I did is I just wrote the XP threshold for the next cleric level and the XP threshold for the next fighter level. Then, whenever I received XP, I would cut the XP in half and record that total, whatever the half was. And when that half total reaches the threshold of cleric, let's say cleric 3, I reach 3000 XP. I really have accumulated 6000 XP, but since I have to split it between the two, you know, my character's XP, as far as I am concerned, because I'm tracking my levels that way, is 3,000. Then cleric goes to 4. Is that right? Cleric went to 3 actually at 3,000. Um, so I think having the different speeds that the classes level, at least for a multi-class character, it felt good. I did play one other Pacesetter game, and I played a straight class fighter, and that was um, I never gained a level throughout that entire adventure, but it was a short adventure. But gaining full XP, I could see how, you would definitely jump up in levels quicker. So, in the example that I've given, where let's say that I just reached cleric 3 and I have 3000 experience, that means that my character would have gained 6000. So uh, I would have enough experience to be almost fighter 4 at that point, or at least halfway between fighter 3 and 4, and I would have just gained um, third level third level cleric, and I wouldn't even be a third level fighter at that point. My current experience, I don't have the folder on me, and I kind of wish that I did, because there was one thing about how I tracked the solo adventure that I wanted to show, but sorry, thinking about the experience here. My current character is 5,000. No, 6,000. 6,000 and change experience. So he is fourth level cleric, third level fighter. Wait a minute. No, fourth level fight. No, 6,000. Yeah, he's not fourth level fighter yet. So he's fourth level cleric, third level fighter. He needs 8,000 to go to fighter 4, and what am I saying? So, um, if I had that full experience, 12,000, it would have been because I've halved it as I've gone. He would be a fourth level fighter and on his way to fifth level fighter. But splitting the XP, there's pluses and minuses, right? So, I mean, he has four levels in one class, three levels in another class, instead of being nearly fifth level in one class. That's pretty much, I think, what I'm trying to get across. But I do like the way that the multi-classing works. I like that you have to pick it up front, that you can't just like level dip to like get a whole bunch of front-loaded stuff out of another class. Splitting the XP between the classes makes sense. Um, I would honestly be interested to see if something like that would work in a newer system like 5e, where you would like claim your classes up front and then between the two and level them together. The difference would be while you're leveling would be twice. Since all the classes in 5e level at the same rate, uh, you would um, you would level quick. Um, everything would level at the same time instead of this where you could be like one level of something and another level of another thing. Okay. So in person, what did I like about AD&D? It's not receiving enough. Okay. Well, I don't know. I seem to be having some kind of issues with this stream. Looks like internet issues, maybe. Um, Maybe I would have been better off just recording this in person. There's no charisma or intelligence rolls. There's no perception checks. You have to actually engage with the world and the NPCs. You have to actually search, not just rely on a die roll. I think that keeps everyone more engaged at the table. Combat seems more engaging. The initiative order changes every turn, so you can't just like check out until your turn and the initiative comes back around. And since the combat round is quick and broken into segments, um, you're more engaged because the whole round is fluid instead of being a bunch of individual turns. Also, your options in combat seem simpler outside of spellcasting, anyway. Uh, so the next thing would be Legacy of the Green Flame. So I have Legacy of the Green Flame. Essentially, it's like a choose your own adventure book where you have an RPG character and um, you engage in RPG mechanics like ability checks and combat. I did complete the prequel and chapters 1 and 2. Uh, I don't want to spoil the story, but I'll just say that it's been an engaging time. I've really enjoyed playing through it. I do like choose your own adventure stories, and then adding in the RPG elements has been fun. I've had to make like ability checks, like strength checks to um, jump a distance, or intelligence checks to see if I can decipher something. Uh, Negative thing that I would have to say is I did have a hard time navigating chapter 2. I'm not sure if I was missing something in the options that were provided, but I couldn't find a way to get to the left side of the map once I entered the main area. The path that made the most sense as far as like progressing in that chapter. Um, Also, some of the reference points didn't clearly make sense where they told you to go. It seemed like they could loop endlessly. So what I had to do was adjudicate my way back and adjudicate my way to the other side of the map. But you know, as any kind of solo adventure, The point of it is to have fun. So, I just found a point in the map where it made sense that I should have been able to cross over, and I did, and then I just continued from there. And any time that I thought that it was looping me to the wrong place or a weird place, I would just adjudicate. Um, but definitely some of the markings were off. Um, I would still highly recommend it. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and the other one that I played was Kizzy Wink's um, Mad Laboratory, I believe it was. But I had a really good time with that one too. As a solo adventure, the other thing that I would have to say is that many things are set. You don't really get to investigate or interact with the world beyond scripted moments. I would say that's to be expected in a choose your own adventure style book. But I would like to experience actual AD&D gameplay. So I'm looking forward to either running or playing more AD&D. I really am looking forward to possibly running it because I think it would be fun. Since the PCs aren't superheroes, I think being able to make mundane challenges would be interesting as a DM. Um, and I do have other thoughts, but I think I'll just talk about them in a future video. I could talk for hours on this topic, but to keep this video at a reasonable time, I'll just end here. And until next time, keep rolling with this.